All right, y'all, welcome back to the channel. I am here in the Food 401k East, and the reason that we've been encouraging y'all to plant a food 401k is because of all of this money games, money chicanery, easy printing, quantitative easing. We've talked to y'all about all of these bailout items, all of this excessive governmental spending, all of this military industrial complex spending. There's some new DOD office that's got a $115 billion budget, and it's some new financing arm. Maybe we'll talk about that. But what I wanted to draw to your attention today is Project Icebreaker. And you always got to like these cool, like Ian Fleming, James Bond, titled Operation Paperclip type things, because we do live in a dystopian novel, which is why we offer the t-shirt, Make Orwell Fiction Again. We also have a Venn diagram with lots of cool dystopian novel titles, and we're here in the middle and all that kind of cool stuff. So if you want a conversation starter or you want to get a good laugh, I wore this on a cruise. Everybody loved it. So if you do enjoy what we do here on the channel, please support us at TheTexasBoys.com. Check out our awesome merch and great organic unvaccinated honey and our CBD coffees and all that cool stuff. Okay, so let's get into this article. It's very interesting. If you've been following us, you're going to see overlap, 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 and you're seeing the beast marching on and the beast system and the components of the one world beast, and now its monetary system, Project Icebreaker, the beginning of a one world digital currency system. Yay! Are you excited, y'all? Can you hear the excitement in my voice? I hope y'all are as excited as I am. There has been extensive discussion in the past couple of years within alternative media circles about the dangers of central bank digital currency, affectionately known as CBDC. Not to be confused with CBD, and we have awesome CBD coffee, y'all. A currency framework very similar to blockchain-based products like Bitcoin, but directly controlled by central bankers. And Chuck, we're gonna have Chuck on again. Chuck's last name starts with a D, and he's a great guy. And Chuck's gonna be, we're gonna have Chuck on probably again tonight. We'll post it sometime next week. We're gonna be talking about the banking systems and all that cool stuff. But here we're talking about CBDC. It's a threat that some analysts, including myself, have been writing about for more than a decade. So it's good to finally see the issue being addressed more in the mainstream. The Orwellian nature of CBDC cannot be overstated. In a cashless society, most people would be dependent on digital products for exchanging goods and labor. And this would, of course, mean the end of all privacy and trade. Everything you buy or sell or work for in your life would be recorded, and this lack of anonymity could be used to stifle your freedoms in the future. For example, say you like to eat a steak regularly, but increasingly authoritarian governments decide to red list meat as a health risk and a climate change risk due to carbon emissions from cows, methane. They determine by your purchase history, which they have full access to, that you have contributed more carbon pollution than most people by eating red meat often. They declare that you must pay a retroactive carbon tax on your purchases of red meat. Not only that, but your insurance company sends you a letter indicating that you are a medical risk, and they cut off your health coverage. That's fine by me because we don't have health coverage. Products you consume and services you use can be tracked to create a psychological profile on you, which could then become a factor in determining your social credit score, just as CCP authorities do in China today, currently enacted in real time in China. And we love China, and they're the good boogeyman and the bad boogeyman. They're a great model to emulate, but yet they're the bad guy. That's very interesting. That is what you call cognitive dissonance. You can't talk about China and then say, I love the way they track and trace everybody. It's tremendous. Maybe you'll refuse to purchase an annual Mr. Nah shot. And the tracking algorithm makes a note of this. Now you are under suspicion for being an anti-vaxxer, and your social credit score plummets, cutting you off from various public venues. Maybe you're even fired from your job. Wow, this stuff sounds reminiscent of like a couple years ago. In the worst case scenario though, economic access to the greatest oppressive tool. With CBDCs in place and no physical cash in existence, your savings will never truly be yours, and you'll never be able to hold your purchasing power in your hands. The means of exchange would be a bottleneck by the banks, and the governments would have the option to freeze your ability to transact. If one day you get angry about a particular government policy and openly call the system corrupt on social media, then they can simply shut off your option to transfer your digital money to others until you submit or die. CBDC gives establishment officials the leverage to starve their political opponents with algorithmic precision. It would be a new world of technocratic oppression. It's important to understand that central bankers are moving at breakneck speed to develop and introduce digital currencies. It's not a matter of experimentation. They already have these systems ready to implement. The Federal Reserve's instant transfer program, FedNow, is set to debut this July, which is not a CBDC, but it is an intermediary step towards CBDCs in the near term. In my investigations of various CBDC programs, and how quickly they are progressing, I came across an interesting program called Project Icebreaker, being run by the Bank of International Settlements. And if you remember my video with Chris, and you saw the big roly-poly dude that had ample proportions and looks like he's never missed a meal or a snack or a midnight snack, and they should probably like turn off his digital wallet and take away his Ben & Jerry subscription. Yeah, I forget that dude's name, but his head kind of morphs into his shoulders, into his hips, and nothing can stop the blob. Okay, so that's the Bank of International Settlements, and they're a great institution. They're involved in lots of great nefarious stuff. For those not aware, the BIS is a global institution with a clandestine past known as the Central Bank of Central Banks. It is the policy-making hub for most of the central banks in the world. If you ever wondered how it was possible for so many national central banks to operate in tandem with each other instead of acting in the interest of the countries they reside in, the BIS is the answer. In other words, organizations like the Federal Reserve are not necessarily loyal to Americans or to American officials. They are loyal to the dictates of BIS. The BIS is at the forefront of the movement towards the adoption of CBDC. They have been funding a vast array of projects to test and refine CBDC technology, and as of this year, they estimate that at least 81 central banks around the world are in the midst of introducing digital currency systems. We keep telling you and describing the beast monetary, one world monetary system that is digitally backed by absolutely nothing. Okay, and any of these people that think like the BRICS is going to go a different route and all that stuff, they may momentarily, or they may on the surface, but I can promise and guarantee you that all of these, the banking cartel is absolutely aware of what everybody's doing, and they're 5 steps ahead of them, and they're all in lockstep. Need I remind you of what happened in 2021 when everything shut down and everybody, regardless of supposed, you know, communist, democratic, republic, blah, 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 they all did the same thing, y'all. All did the same thing. So they're all in on it. The BIS is at the forefront of the movement. Project Icebreaker in particular grabbed my attention for numerous reasons. The BIS described the project as a foreign exchange clearinghouse for retail CBDC. Retail CBDC are digital currencies used by the regular public and businesses, enabling the currencies to be traded from country to country quickly and efficiently. This is accomplished using the Icebreaker hub. a BIS controlled mechanism which facilitates data transfers for an array of transactions while connecting banks to other banks. What I'll do is there's a YouTube video, and I think this is released by BIS on Project Icebreaker. I'll attach the link of that video in the description. Investigating further, I realized that the Icebreaker hub, in theory, functions almost exactly like the SWIFT payment system. So we've been using this archaic junk SWIFT system for forever, and it's total trash. And the reason that they've been delaying on fixing it and upgrading it is because of CBDC, y'all. And now, what do you know? Project Icebreaker is going to replace the SWIFT system. More than 10,000 financial institutions in 212 different countries use the SWIFT network to transfer funds overseas for their clients. It is an incredible centralization bottleneck that gives its shareholders considerable power. As a point of reference, after the start of the war between Ukraine and Russia, the expulsion of Russia from the SWIFT network was used as a weapon in an attempt to crash the Russian economy. Russia has found ways around using SWIFT because of their trade relationships with major economies like China and India. But some damage has still been done to the financial structure. Consider this, however. What if all monetary transactions were centralized through CBDC and the BIS controlled the hub in which all retail CBDCs are exchanged globally? This is what Icebreaker is. Now imagine that you can operate a business that relies on overseas transactions. Say you need to pay manufacturers in Vietnam or Taiwan to produce your products. With CBDC in place, you will most likely be completely dependent on a system similar to the Icebreaker hub to move that digital money to Vietnam banks and into the accounts of your manufacturers. Say officials at the BIS, for whatever reason, decide they don't like you and they initiate Russian-style sanctions denying you access to the hub. Your business is now dead. What if you had to meet certain standards in order to be allowed use of the hub? You mean like ESG? Think of ESG. If you don't know what ESG is, just do a Brave browser search of ESG. And that's this whole ecological and social governance. And this is all green, New World Order, control, track, trace, hate on you, transformer, agenda, Decepticons, activate. What if you had to meet certain standards in order to be allowed to use the hub? What if the BIS decided that your company needs to meet, I should have kept reading. What if BIS decides your company needs to meet woke ESG related categories before you can get permission for Icebreaker transactions? Now the BIS has the ability to manipulate social and cultural trends using your business and millions of other businesses as forced messengers. For the average consumer that does most of their transactions within their home country, this might not sound like a big deal. But for the business world, a SWIFT-like hub for retail CBDCs could be used to dominate all international trade. Running any kind of larger organization or company would mean bowing to the whims of the BIS. It gets worse though. Part of the process of the spoke and wheel exchange method used by Icebreaker Hub includes the exploitation of bridge currency to fill gaps in exchange rates and liquidity. On the surface, this seems like a clever way to speed up transactions by avoiding cross-currency shortages at banks. That said, I want readers to think about the long-term path that this kind of bridging sets in motion in the realms of CBDC. Let's say there's a global-scale economic crisis event which causes many currencies to fluctuate wildly. Wow, you mean like a world war, maybe something like that? I wonder if that's going to happen. Let's say, for example, that the US dollar loses its world reserve status. Well, that is happening as we speak, okay? For example, the US dollar loses world reserve status and petro status. That has happened. And this sends foreign exchange markets into a panic. Price inflation becomes rampant and banking institutions falter under liquidity pressures. And if you don't believe me that the petrodollar has lost its status with this whole BRICS thing, look at the price per barrel. Ever since it was announced, the price per barrel has went up. I think it's floating around $82 today. That doesn't mean that it's going to continue. It does mean that we're very likely to see $250 a barrel oil as these stronger currencies that operate outside of the petrodollar become stronger, because that only in turn will drive up our price as the dollar weakens. Let's say the central bankers introduce CBDCs as a solution to the problem, and the BIS Icebreaker hub as the intermediary for international trade. The populace is so frightened by the economic crash that they then embrace the digital framework. Now let's say that the BIS claims they can't find a currency they consider stable enough to act as a means of bridge most global transaction. What happens then? Well, luckily for all of us, the BIS and IMF, that's the International Monetary Fund, have been working on their own global CBDC. In the case of the IMF, this one world currency would be based around the special drawing rights basket system that have been using for decades to broker currency transfers between national governments. The BIS then uses this one world currency product as the bridge for Icebreaker going forward. And if this sounds biblical, y'all, it's because it is. No one can buy and sell a global currency, a one world currency. This is the framework and the infrastructure and even the concept and the philosophy of a one world global system ran by an absolutely total private banking cartel. And if you research BIS and where it came from, and you can go in the Wayback Machine, you can find out all kind of cool stuff, but these are not good people and they're not doing good things. And they continue to build the infrastructure for a one world digital currency. And talk about no sovereignty, talk about no more national sovereignty. And I'm not necessarily saying that I'm even a populist, but as this stuff gets implemented, we all become global citizens of Mother Gaia. I mean, this is some crazy biblical proportions kind of stuff. And, we have to do what we can to resist and prevent this stuff. And a lot of the way we do that is with infrastructure, right? Buying dirt, returning to a more natural agrarian way of life, trying to grow your own food, right? Trying to provide for yourself, and how do we do all this? Parallel society, parallel community, loving your neighbor, right? Helping your neighbor, developing what economy used to be. It used to be your local community and not this international global whatever. I mean, it's nuts, man. They're just trying to take and steal everything. And so I will attach the link to this video. This is some crazy nefarious stuff. Hey, look out, just got an email from Curtis Stone. We're gonna be having Curtis Stone on. He's got a great new product. We get questions asked all the time about buying land, and he's got a great course on that, how to scout it out, how to do it, what to look for. And I'm really looking forward to this interview with Curtis, so be on the lookout for that. Hopefully we can get it done and post it in the next week or two. But we love y'all. Thanks for watching, and check out all of our backups and subscribe, and we will see y'all in the next video.